your gateway to digital transformation. We are an independent, vendor-neutral ISO IEC 1024 accredited certification body committed to helping individuals and organizations stay future-ready in a rapidly evolving world. GSDC is accredited by the Accreditation Board for International Certification Bodies, ABICB. For 10 years, we've certified more than 100,000 professionals across Europe, North America, Asia, and Africa, with our offices in Switzerland, the United States, and Singapore. Our programs are recognized by leading publications and podcasts, including Forbes, Tech Target, People Managing People. We offer 100-plus globally accredited certifications across emerging and in-demand domains like generative AI and emerging technologies, HR and learning and development, project management and agile Scrum, ISO and quality management, information security. Each GSDC certification is designed to empower professionals with confidence and help organizations stay competitive in a fast-changing landscape. Every certification is crafted with insights from 100-plus global advisory board members representing top universities and leading industry experts. Our certified professionals are trusted by 500-plus multinational companies, which help unlock better roles, faster promotions, and delivering cutting-edge expertise. We partner with 100-plus authorized training partners and 50-plus universities, supporting talent across all career levels, from entry-level to executive leadership. As a GSDC member, you gain lifelong access to interactive webinars, hands-on workshops, SME panels, and global summits. Join a vibrant community of 25,000-plus members and be part of our global events. Check our reviews on Trustpilot. We're trusted worldwide for quality, support, and impact. Whether you're aiming higher or building tomorrow's talent, GSDC is your partner in purposeful growth and impactful leadership. Visit our website to explore our offerings. GSDC, share the best practices and learn from the best practices. Welcome to the Global Skill Development Council, your gateway to digital transformation. We are an independent, vendor-neutral ISO IEC 1024 accredited certification body committed to helping individuals and organizations stay future-ready in a rapidly evolving world. GSDC is accredited by the Accreditation Board for International Certification Bodies, ABICB. For 10 years, we've certified more than 100,000 professionals across Europe, North America, Asia, and Africa, with our offices in Switzerland, the United States, and Singapore. Our programs are recognized by leading publications and podcasts, including Forbes, Tech Target, People Managing People. We offer 100-plus globally accredited certifications across emerging and in-demand domains like generative AI and emerging technologies, HR and learning and development, project management and agile Scrum, ISO and quality management, information security. Each GSDC certification is designed to empower professionals with confidence and help organizations stay competitive in a fast-changing landscape. Every certification is crafted with insights from 100-plus global advisory board members representing top universities and leading industry experts. Our certified professionals are trusted by 500-plus multinational companies, which help unlock better roles, faster promotions, and delivering cutting-edge expertise. We partner with 100-plus authorized training partners and 50-plus universities, supporting talent across all career levels, from entry-level to executive leadership. As a GSDC member, you gain lifelong access to interactive webinars, hands-on workshops, SME panels, and global summits. Join a vibrant community of 25,000-plus members and be part of our global events. Check our reviews on Trustpilot. We're trusted worldwide for quality, support, and impact. Whether you're aiming higher or building tomorrow's talent, GSDC is your partner in purposeful growth and impactful leadership. Visit our website to explore our offerings. GSDC, share the best practices and learn from the best practices.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from. I'll be sharing the screen. Please allow me a minute so we can start with the session. And here we go. I hope my screen is visible to you all. And thank you so much for joining today's session. I welcome you all to our session GSDC Certified Learning, Tackling Sustainability Challenges in Business, with a theme that is Driving Corporate Sustainability Strategies for 2025 and beyond. My name is Preetham. I'm going to be your host for this session. If you need any assistance during this session, feel free to reach out to me over the chat box and I'll take care of it. So, yes, I'm very excited to host this entire webinar series, which is scheduled from 27 to 31st October 2025, with the time slot that is 9:30 a.m. Central, 10:30 p.m. Singapore time. So, please do join us for all the sessions as we already done with the one session yesterday, and we'll be having another three sessions scheduled. So, do join us for remaining sessions as we have amazing panel of speaker aligned for this. And I'm very proud to inform you all that today we have this incredible speaker with us, George Richard. He's a director at JRP Solution Limited, and he'll be taking us through a very important topic that is addressing energy and carbon reduction through smarter sustainability solution. So before he could start with his session, I would love to introduce our hosting organization, GSDC. We known as Global Skill Development Council. We are vendor agnostic, vendor neutral, and we are globally recognized certification body, and we are accredited by ANSI and ABICB. We do have 100 plus certification portfolio with us, and we have certified more than 250,000 professionals across the globe. We have 500 SMEs, those our subject matter expert, our industry experts. They work with us closely to design deliverables. Also, we are associated with 1,000 multinational corporates and 500 Fortune companies and 50 plus universities across the globe. And I'm very proud to inform you all that we do have 100 plus authorized training partner with us. We have a partner in Asia, Africa, Canada, America, and many other countries. So I would love to thank you those who have joined us through our training partner channel. In case if you're looking for any training program for yourself, feel free to reach out to our training partner to have an inquiry about the same. I'll share all the links in the chat box. A special thanks to our official media partner, World Press Hub, for covering all our events and press releases. As I mentioned earlier in my previous slide that we do have 100 plus certification portfolio with us. So our current certification portfolio holds certifications on emerging technologies, agile and DevOps, quality compliance, learning and development, digital transformation, and so on. So in case if you are looking for any of these certification in order to upskill yourself, you can definitely reach out to a learning advisor or you can visit our website, which is mentioned below, www.gsdcouncil.org, to get more information regarding the certification and to check all the offerings that GSDC has for all of you. So, what all benefits you'll be getting with the certification? You'll become GSDC's member for a lifelong. With that, you'll get a certificate upgrade and you'll be having access to all our events, workshop, boot camps. And guess what? Right. You'll be having free access to all our exclusive learning program that we do provide. With that, you'll be getting implementation resources, speaker invites, and newsletter. Isn't it great? You'll be getting all these benefits. So do grab this opportunity and do sign up yourself for this amazing certification program that we do have. So without any further delay, I would love to tell more about George. So George has over 35 years of experience for working with industrial and commercial clients across a range of sectors throughout the UK and Ireland. Delivering sustainability solution to improve business performance, he is a passionate believer in the need for immediate action to address climate change and is actively engaging and assisting a wide range of organizations in all sectors to develop and implement net zero strategies, strengthen climate resilience, and make sustainability a core part of the future. We are very delighted to have you, George, with us today for the session. Thank you very much for joining. Warm welcome to you, and you can have the virtual mic now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, thank you for that introduction. I couldn't have said it better myself. So today we're going to be talking about energy and carbon reduction through smarter sustainability solutions.
George, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we cannot see your full presentation mode. We can see another slide as well.
Okay, bear with me.
Yeah.
There you go. Is that better?
Yeah, it is better.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. So yes, thank you for that introduction. So this is the main talking points of today. So brief introduction, background and context. We'll talk about data, which from my perspective is the start and end point of everything to do with carbon and energy. We'll talk about smart targets, group versus site, and making targets realistic and achievable before moving on to people, processes and procedures, which really underpin everything that we do and shouldn't be forgotten. Often the things that people can do as individuals and collectively is often undervalued and shouldn't be. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. And then we'll talk about technical projects, which the engineers amongst us will be very comfortable with, I'm sure. And then we mustn't forget about what's on the horizon and avoiding potential risks and costs that climate change is facing us all with. And then I'll summarize at the end, take any questions and hand back over. So hopefully that gives everyone an idea of what we're going to be talking about today and doesn't give anyone any surprises. So a little bit about me, just to give a bit of background. I live in a beautiful part of the world near Malvern Hills in the middle of England. It's where the composer Elgar lived, and Margaret Thatcher's favourite hotel was at the Cottage in the Woods. So a little bit of context there. I'm big into my sport, play quite a lot of badminton, support Nottingham Forest Football Club, love my music, and the picture there with my two sons at a festival in Croatia quite recently. But working life, started off, did an HVAC apprenticeship back in the day when I actually had some hair, worked for BP for 7 or 8 years, and then landed at JRP Solutions 14 years ago. So that's me in a nutshell. So who are JRP? We've been around for 25 years, so we're not new kids on the block, and we're regarded as being the UK's leading independent energy and net zero outsourcing specialists. We are uniquely practical, pragmatic and highly experienced because we've worked across all sectors. So we understand energy and carbon within its own working environment and some of the restraints, if you like, and constraints that different organizations and businesses face. We're supplier and technology agnostic, and that's important because we're not out there trying to sell anyone's product. And it enables us to act as our client's trusted advisor, and that's really important to us. We're also walk the walk as well as talk the talk. We're a B Corp certified organisation with a target to be net zero by 2030, which we're well on track to achieving. As you can see there, some of those names might be familiar to you, but as you can see, they represent food and drink, the healthcare sector, telecommunications, retail, manufacturing, and utilities. Our 6 core service lines go across net zero and climate resilience. So that's everything from developing strategy, roadmap and action plans to helping organizations implement them. Because more often than not, there are lots of people out there that can help. However, the help often stops at the strategy and leaves the organization with the headache of trying to implement things when they don't have the time, resources, knowledge, and sometimes capital to do it. Energy management is where we started off life. So everything around energy except the supply of it. So that's reporting, training, audits, data solutions, which I'll talk about in a bit more depth in a minute. Asset management is a little bit unusual. That's where we started off life. We did a big piece of work with Rolls-Royce, looking at an FM outsourcing strategy across Europe and the Far East, as we would refer it to being, and that took out £400 million worth of cost out of the business, but most importantly, it improved the internal customer satisfaction rating, rose from 43% to 91%. So in other words, it was a job very, very well done. And then we help clients also with project implementation and ESG strategies. So that's everything beyond net zero. Used to be called sustainability. In some quarters, it still is. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of me and my company, JRP Solutions. But let's start with data. For me, data is the start and the end point to any journey. And without it, like this screen, you're working in the dark. What we always say to our clients, or the question we always ask them, is what do you want your data to tell you? Because all too often organizations put in lots of meters, collect lots of data, and create a big data lake, but no one really does anything useful with it. So data without interpretation, without analysis, without reporting the useful things that data is telling you, is more or less useless. What your data can do at site level is measure energy intensity of processes, products, or buildings, identify hotspots, how well energy is being controlled through something called regression analysis, measure the performance of implemented projects. So it will tell your financial director how successful it's been, whether it's got a good return on his investment. And importantly, and this is something that still goes on today, to validate your utility bills. You'll be amazed how many organizations just get their utility bills and pay them. No one checks them because those bills often have faults in them, if you like. Meters go wrong, meters aren't read correctly, etc. So you can overpay for energy you perhaps haven't even had. Our approach is not to go in and replace systems. Our approach is to make existing systems work. So optimize the existing systems rather than replace them where possible. And start with the most critical or high energy using plant and equipment. So start metering those things and avoid the creation of data lakes. Interpret and analyze the data and make sure you're providing useful information to all key stakeholders. But most importantly, rather than having this pool of data and it telling you lots of things, which is great, then act upon what it's telling you. That's the whole point. Okay. And at an organizational level, it obviously underpins things like your net zero roadmaps. It helps companies or organizations to benchmark across different locations. It helps you to create your carbon footprint. And helps you to identify the source of your CO2 emissions, both within your own organizational structure and within your supply chains. Helps you to inform your target setting. Validates performance. So what I talked about earlier, where you've done something, you've had an intervention, and it will help you to measure how successful that intervention has been. And obviously, it's essential for carbon reporting. And measurement matters for other reasons as well. We'll talk about people and behaviors in a moment, but it's important to inform people and to celebrate success. If you're not measuring what you're doing, how do you know how well it's done? And if someone has come up with a great idea and it's actually benefited the organization, but there's no feedback given, how motivated do you think that person's going to be? So whilst it might seem to be a soft issue in many quarters, it most definitely isn't. So I'll talk a little bit about people in a moment, but measurement really does matter. And you've got various data sources. Larger industrial sites will have half-hourly meters, which gives you much better information. It's not granular. If you get sub-metering, you get more granular information, which helps you to get into the nitty-gritty. But it also helps you to understand what's going on when people aren't there. So out of hours, whether it's an office or a hospital or whatever it might be, where an area isn't being occupied, why is the energy still being used at such a level? And sometimes it's a question of actually going into that area and looking around and finding that things are left on or that controls have been altered, whatever the case may be. But unless you're monitoring that and doing something useful with the energy, with that information, that energy is going to continue to be wasted. And it can waste thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds a year, particularly when it's cumulative, when there's this left on, then that, and this and the other. And no one's monitoring it, no one's doing anything about it. So data is key for effective energy management. And building energy management systems need to be allowed to do their job. And quite often we find that where building management systems have been installed, it's often a fit and forget sort of philosophy, if you like, if that's indeed what you can call it. And what we find is where we've been in and looked at these systems and found that they're gradually over the years, people have altered the set points. So you'll find offices are being overheated rather than 21 degrees Celsius, they're being heated to 24 degrees. And that wastes an awful lot of energy. But we also find that sometimes heating's on at the same time as cooling, at the same time as windows are open, which is absolutely crazy. So allowing building management systems to do their job is critical. Unless you're monitoring the data, you won't understand what's going on. It also helps you to understand where energy is actually being used. Obviously, might sound like an obvious statement, but helps you to identify the major energy using pieces of kit. As I said earlier, out of hours walk around is always a good idea to see what is being left on. There was one food manufacturer here in the UK that was a 7th duty manager on a 4-hour shift over Christmas shutdown. So 6 other managers had been in, and he went round and spent his whole 4 hours switching things off that the previous 6 managers had just not even noticed or ignored. So that's about a culture, if you like, and a lack of awareness, and him taking responsibility. But it shows what can happen when you're not monitoring data and you're not monitoring the right things and then doing something about it. So again, looking at what can be turned down. If you take that food example I just used there, I once took a 3-minute video of one of 12 linear production lines, which are all about 150 meters long. And along that line were nitrogen cooling tunnels, gas-fired ovens, obviously motors running the conveyor belts, extract, etc., etc. And I showed this video 3 minutes long to a group of environmental engineers and asked them to identify as many energy saving opportunities as they could. And they all came up at the end of the 5 minutes they had to spot them with a whole load, 10, 11, 12, but not one of them identified the fact that there wasn't one single product coming down that line. So why was anything on at all? And that's the problem. People get too involved in minutiae and don't take themselves out and see the bigger picture. So having a holistic view of what's going on, which is what data will provide you with, is absolutely critical to effective energy management. And obviously you can create as many graphs as you like with the correct data, which will tell you whatever you want it to tell you. It'll tell you how you're performing year on year, give you moving annual targets, and it'll enable you to give that information in a useful way. An FD or an even MD isn't really interested in tons of CO2 or kilowatt hours. What he's interested in is costs and cost savings. That's really what will get their attention. As I've said here, I've preempted my own slides. But you can give numerous examples here. There's lots of examples I can give you where there's been unreported compressed air leaks, where there's been things left on overnight, whether that's as simple as lights, which you'd think is pretty visible and pretty obvious to be able to shut them down. But if you think about, 100 PCs being left on overnight in an office, you're talking about saving 15 tons of CO2 a year and $2,000. And then you might think, well, $2,000, but if you apply that to every single office within that organization, it's a lot of money. And why would you wantonly want to waste money, waste energy, and increase your CO2 emissions? It doesn't make any sense, does it? So it's a way of making life easier by addressing the small things, using your data to identify what's going on in your organization. Okay. And that's an organizational level again. This is a carbon footprint of a healthcare company. As you can see here, the data is telling us what we need to know. What are the sources in scope 3? What's the sources in scope 2? And of course, scope 3, which is no surprise, accounts for 76% of their total footprint. So data is absolutely critical. And when moving forward, of course, again, you'll be able to make a comparison year on year to see how successful your carbon action plan has been in terms of reducing your emissions or indeed your energy. So how do you know how good your data is? Well, you can use simple gap analysis tools. We've developed one which we've used across a number of organizations, and that helps people to understand where they're at in terms of their data collation, their availability, and the analysis and reporting of that data. It's a simple tool, but it does the trick. And at the end of that gap analysis, you then can have an action plan to address the gaps and improve the data, improve the quality and consistency of the data, and make sure that you're using that data in the way you want it to be used. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's essential. It's not just helps you, but it's essential in terms of meeting your reporting requirements, which seem to be growing by the day, don't they? But here in the UK, we've got ESOS, but obviously TCFD, CBAM, CSRD, and I'm sure there are many more country-specific ones as well. But without the data, you're not going to be able to comply with these reporting frameworks. So talk about targets. So now you've got the data in a reasonable place. What are you going to do with it? What else can you do with it apart from it telling you what's going on? The one challenge I find a lot of organizations have where they're multiple site organizations is that group targets are imposed on individual locations. And that's all well and good if you're all starting from the same starting point. But what you have is a number of influencing factors at location level. Group targets can only ever be a collective objective because different sites, different locations will have different levels of maturity in terms of energy and carbon. They'll have different cultures, particularly if you've grown through acquisition. They'll have different legacy systems installed. They may have different core activities. And the scale of the opportunity will vary from location to location. So a large site that hasn't done an awful lot and doesn't have a great culture, there's a lot of opportunity there. Whereas compared to another site, which may be smaller, which has been very, very good at managing their energy and their carbon, if they're suddenly imposed with another 20% reduction target, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to achieve it. Whereas the other site that haven't actually done anything for a long time, it'll be a lot easier for them to achieve. So making the site targets relevant and achievable helps with morale as well, because you feel very demotivated if you're given a target that isn't smart, that isn't achievable, or very, very challenging to achieve. So taking all those things into account, big believer in you should have a high level strategy for a group if you're a part of a group, but you should have site specific targets and plans for the individual site, irrespective of what that site does. So where do you start? And I'm going to get fed up with this word, but data. Data is absolutely key because it tells you everything you need to know, what's currently going on, and it'll also help to inform you of the success of interventions that you carry out, whether they're technical projects or softer projects, control optimizations, whatever it might be. Without data, you're operating in the dark, as I said. And optimize the installed M&T system, so make it work better for you. And have carry out an initial energy and carbon audit, because that will tell you a lot about where you are and what the opportunities are to improve. And then based on that information, create a site energy / carbon reduction plan, depending whether you're purely looking at energy or whether you're looking to decarbonize the site. And most importantly, have targets within that plan. Okay, have something for people to aim for and make them realistic, as I said earlier. And in the first instance, in year one, implement the no-cost, low-cost opportunities, because you're not having to go cap in hand to ask for money to implement those things. There are things like altering controls, putting processes in place, putting procedures in place that support your efforts, and then start to investigate the alternative delivery mechanisms for CapEx projects, for the bigger stuff, if you like, and measure and report the results. And of course, review the plan. And site energy plans, they don't have to be expansive. They don't have to go into slides and slides and slides or a great big thick booklet or anything like that. It can be a simple one-pager with an accompanying graph that says, this is where we're at. These are the things we know is going to happen. So if in a manufacturing environment, we know that we're planning on production increases, how are we going to offset that? So your plan will all be about reducing the energy intensity, or rather increasing the energy intensity of those products. So in other words, you're using less energy to produce more product. Okay, but you can offset all that. So you have a plan that shows an underlying reduction in energy consumption, irrespective of what else is happening on site. Now, we've talked about data and the importance of data. We've talked about what you can do with that data, and we've talked about setting targets and having individual plans for sites. And that's all well and good, but none of that will happen without the appropriate people, processes, and procedures in place. And even in the 21st century, in a developed economy such as the UK, you'd still be surprised how many times we go on site and find that these things are not in place or not as complete as they should be. So the impact of small people power changes can be significant. It's a cumulative impact, but people influence up to 60 to 70% of workplace energy usage. That's huge. And good, appropriate, effective behavioral actions can cut energy bills by between 5 and 15% with no capital spend whatsoever. That's just doing things slightly differently, okay? They're quicker, they're faster to implement, they're more sustainable, because once you change people's behaviors, they stay changed. That's really good. And I can testify to that with raising my son and making him come downstairs or go back upstairs whenever he came down for his dinner and had left his TV on or left his Xbox on or whatever else. And by the time he got up for the third time to turn it off, he soon learned to turn it off before he came back downstairs. And it's no different in the workplace. Things become a habit after a while, but they need to be repeated and reminded. And of course, every kilowatt hour saved is a direct cost reduction. So that's a direct benefit in terms of the bottom line for the organization. And it also has a carbon benefit. So it very much is a contributing factor. The Committee for Climate Change stated that they thought that people power and behavior could account for 50% of carbon reductions in any organization. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. But they mean from the boardroom down to the shop floor and everywhere in between. So in a nutshell, energy efficiency equates to improved margins and improved resilience. So underpinning the people actions, you've got to have the right policies and procedures and systems in place. So if I give you an example, let's say in an industrial environment, you have a compressed air leak. Now, if someone's not trained to identify that and recognize it as being a leak, it won't get reported. If they are trained and they identify it and they report it, but there isn't a system in place to report it, then nothing will happen. If there is a system in place to report it, it gets reported, but the maintenance team don't have a KPI, key performance indicator, to say that, yes, it will be fixed within an hour, within shift, within the day, then it could linger on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the point of that is when I ask the question of people, how do you currently manage your compressed air, which is the most expensive commodity on an industrial site? The answer often comes back is, we have an annual air leak survey. To which I always answer, well, what happens then if an air leak springs up the day after you've had that survey done, and assuming you fixed all your leaks, does it then sit there for another 364 days until your next annual air leak survey? So it just emphasizes the importance of having procedures in place. So have your energy plan, have an energy policy, which is well communicated and known by everybody, because managing your energy and carbon isn't the job of one person, as it always used to be. It's the job of everybody. Everyone makes a difference. Look at your purchasing policies. Does carbon and energy even come into it when you're procuring things? Because it should do. Ideally, and some organizations have already got this, have an internal carbon price, because guess what? It makes some of those bigger ticket items actually have a better payback. But it also means that the company is really believing in reducing their carbon and really committed to it. And that price can be in pounds term, English pounds, £50 to £100 is typically per tonne, what some organisations are setting it at. Have things like motor replacement policies. I've already mentioned compressed air. Have a shutdown checklist, but don't just have a checklist. Make sure that people are actually doing it. I've seen checklists and people just ignore it. It's just a piece of paper. And as ISO 50001 calls for it, have an energy opportunity database. So you have a list of projects which you can then prioritize and implement and monitor as you go along. And again, a number of organizations have got a ring-fence budget for energy and carbon efficiency. I think that's a luxury that a lot of companies don't have. But in an ideal world, having that ring-fence budget that is only used for energy and carbon efficiency measures is fantastic. It really is effective. And above all, empower your staff. So give them all the information they need, give them that bit of training to help them spot those air leaks, to help them understand the things that they can do to impact energy and carbon reductions. Also, I would say have a responsible person. Energy teams and energy champions are great. Even in an office environment, have that one person that's just giving their colleagues a nudge, reminding them when they've left their monitor on or leaving lights on or whatever the case may be. Just give them that little reminder to switch things off and don't leave things running if they're not at their desk. Okay. And communication is really, really important. Particularly, I would say, obviously, the reporting side of things, but communicate wins and best practice. And even if someone comes up with an idea that, in actual fact, after a bit of investigation, think that's not going to fly for whatever reason, give them that feedback in a positive way, because otherwise, they'll become demotivated. So communication, absolutely key. It also keeps energy and carbon on the agenda at all levels throughout an organization. And make it relevant, as I touched upon earlier. If you talk to your MD about kilowatt hours or tons of carbon, he'll just look at you blankly. Talk to him about money, and you'll get his attention. And it's the same in the home environment. If you think about it, if I was to say to you, look, by not using your tumble dryer, you could save yourself between $650 to $910 a year just by not using your tumble dryer. That gets your attention. If I said to you, oh, look, you could save X kilowatt hours, or you could save, 10 tons of carbon a year, you wouldn't know what I was talking about, and it wouldn't mean anything to you. But when you're paying the bills, it does mean a lot more to you. So talk to people in their language, the things that they understand that they're going to be able to relate to. It's really important. Then you don't turn them off and you'll get greater engagement and understanding. And there is other commercial advantages of recognition and culture. It makes you a more attractive organization to work for. It's about customer attraction and retention, staff attraction and retention. It gives you more operational resilience, and it translates into money and better bottom line performance, which is really important. And also, we're seeing, particularly in the public sector, government contracts, etc., local authority contracts, in their tenders, it often asks about culture. It often asks about social value. It asks about awareness of carbon. Have you given your staff carbon and energy training? So it has added value. So just to give you a couple of examples, real companies, real results. Organizations can realistically, and I can give you a couple of stories where it's much greater than that. Now, what's happened there? It's stopped sharing. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, so good to share. Sorry about this, guys. There you go. I'm back, I think. Okay. Okay, there you go. Organizations can realistically cut between 5 and 15% from energy bills without actually spending any money, or very little money, that is. So You can focus on operational equipment use, workplace practices, monitoring and feedback, leadership and engagement, travel and logistics, facilities and site management. But if I give you a couple of real examples, I mean, there's one here at the bottom. We did a program for Rolls-Royce at one of their sites here in the UK, and in the first full 12 months, reduced energy by 8.9%, which was significant. So they had a high energy bill. And in the second full 12 months, that rose to double digits. So it was about 11% in the second full 12 months. And that had a payback of approximately 3 months. So extremely good rates of return, far better than the vast majority of technical projects. So here's a few more examples, real companies, real results, and I can add more to that. In fact, the Merthyr Council one down here in the bottom right-hand corner, that one's in actual fact in 20% now, 21, 22%, something like that. There's another one that doesn't appear on here, which was for a major university in the UK, where we went in and it was a combination of behavior change and BMS system audit and optimization. We went in and looked at their existing BMS, which hadn't been looked at for probably 5-6 years. And by moving set points, etc., making it work, combined with some behavior change, or at least education, their energy consumption reduced by over 30%. So that was a minimum cost to them and a very high return. So a lot of things can be achieved through good behaviors and good practices. And some additional benefits as well. It supports ISO 50001, obviously helps to reduce your emissions, strengthens your bids, particularly in the public sector. It also helps to demonstrate a real value or value to the senior management team. I think quite often people struggle to get this subject in front of the senior management team because there's not been enough hard evidence. But you've got the hard evidence. You know, these so-called, previously called soft issues make a massive difference. And even from a plant efficiency perspective and extended asset life, if you're looking after your kit better because people are more aware of things that are going wrong, or there's leaks or whatever, it's getting reported, it's getting dealt with because the training's in place, the processes are in place, the action's in place, the reporting's in place, then that piece of kit will last a lot longer than it otherwise would have done. That can be a significant cost avoidance for any organization. In terms of, well, how do you get the message out there? When you're a multiple site organization employing, you know, maybe hundreds, if not thousands of people, how do you get that message out? Well, there are lots of training out there. We do face-to-face training. We also developed an e-learning package called Be Energy. We've also currently developing a sustainable version of that. And that, again, is modular. It makes it easy for people to do wherever you are in the world. It makes no difference. And it's bite-sized bits of information. It really helps to engage people. And these things can be customized fully for your own organization. The more the customization, the greater the engagement and relevance that you get. But can be extremely effective as part of your people empowerment and behavior change work. So technical projects, and as I said, the engineers amongst us love technical projects. And of course, whenever something needs to be done, there must be a technical solution to it. And quite often there is. But I've put this sort of way down the agenda because you need to do all the other things first. So manage energy, get your energy management into a better place, get the foundation stones in place, get the awareness in place, the policies, the processes, etc. Get that all in place, reduce your energy consumption, reduce your emissions, and then start to look at technical projects for the things that you can't otherwise tackle. And again, we could be talking, obviously, I've got renewables up here, you know, heat pumps, biomass, solar, could have put wind in there, whatever it is. And you'll get lots of people knocking at your door saying, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And I don't know about you guys, but solar has become a bit like double glazing became here in the UK, whereas every Tom, Dick and Harry is selling you solar these days. And it's quite hard for those that aren't involved in this in a day-to-day basis to actually understand and recognise the good, the bad from the ugly. So selecting and implementing the right projects is a challenge for any organisation. And if you don't have a system or a process or a tool to help you do that, it's even more challenging. Understanding what the drivers are for the project. So quite often, we've been approached by numerous organisations in recent years saying, oh yeah, I really want to decarbonise, but I don't want to pay for it. We really want to reduce our costs and reduce our emissions. And sometimes the two things don't work together. Sometimes they do. So you have to understand what are the key drivers for those projects, and then look for the right projects that are going to deliver what it is you want those projects to deliver, whether it's reduce cost, reduce carbon, whatever it might be, because the two things don't necessarily marry up. And you don't have to use your own money. There are alternative financial delivery mechanisms out there. I'm sure some of you have heard of power purchase agreements, but there are other arrangements by which these projects can be implemented without you having to stump up your own capital. And in the supporting agreements in those instances, you need to achieve the right risk-reward balance. Finding the right technical solution is one thing, but then you also need to understand whether that technical solution is even practical. For instance, in the UK, we have issues around local grid connection because it's not robust enough in some areas. But we also act on behalf of our clients. This is the trusted advisor bit. Do your due diligence, both of the technical solution being proposed and of your preferred supplier. So make sure that they can do what they say they can do. We've had a couple of examples recently where a client has gone off on their own and said, no, we can do this, gone off, and they've appointed a solar company to go and put in a solar array. 7 months later, we've gone back in, looked at the data, said, well, it's not even working. And they've had technical issues. I said, well, go back to the supplier, get them to sort it out. They've gone back to supplier. The supplier is no longer in business. So doing that piece of due diligence, particularly when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever it might be, is really, really important, and something that a lot of people don't do, and they are taking a gamble by not doing it. So yeah, we can do that due diligence, and others can, I'm sure, but do your due diligence, both of the technical solution. Don't take their word for it. Get third eye on it and check them out. Make sure they're not going to go bust in 2 years' time, or they can actually do what they can do. So get references at the very least. And obviously get the right contracts in place, and make sure that it's not a fit and forget proposition. So make sure that you have agreed performance measures in there, and that performance is measured on at least an annual basis, if not monthly, depending on the technology, and create the reports to make sure that you're on top of it and the right people are informed as to how that project's going. And if it's going really well, you want to be telling the world about it anyway, don't you? Because next time you go to your FD asking for money for a project, he's going to look more favorably upon you if it's a successful project, isn't he? As I've said, I already mentioned some of these things. Finance doesn't have to be your own money. Consider other options. We've done lots of optioneering for different organisations looking at spending sometimes millions of pounds on large CHP projects, for instance, and we've helped them to look at all the options that there are and the pros and cons of each of those with our trusted advisor hat on our head. So we're sitting there alongside the client, helping them to make the right decision and making sure that it is the right decision and it's going to work for them. There are other tools out there. We created our own called Project Activator, which is a cloud-based tool which is being used extensively by Vodafone and also Severn Trent Water here in the UK. And I think the beauty of that is, again, talked earlier about one of the deliverables. The deliverable for me is not the technology that sits in the middle, it's what it's going to deliver to you. And in this case, it's automated reporting. So talking about the importance of reporting, this thing can create reports relevant to individual stakeholders, talking in their language and presenting it in a format and a frequency that they have requested. An example would be working with Domino's Pizza here in the UK. there was an opportunity to install roof-mounted solar on 2 of their manufacturing plants. We helped them through that process to identify the right suppliers and to sense check the technology that was being proposed. They then signed the agreement. It was all installed. A year later, they asked us back in to monitor the performance and to report how it was performing against how it was forecast. And there was a couple of issues which we highlighted and addressed, and those systems are now working 100% as they should be. So looking ahead, and this is a subject area that people are only just beginning to wake up to, but it's a very, very important area because, and I'll tell you for the reasons why, climate volatility is disrupting business. It's costing people's lives, and it's costing organizations money. You can see the headlines there. Extreme weather, according to the UN, extreme weather caused 2 million deaths, cost $4 trillion over the last 50 years, and it's getting no better. So pretty shocking. I'll give you a couple of examples. I think there's been a tendency for people all over the world. Oh, it's not happening here. It's happening far away, so I can forget about it. Well, we can't forget about it because we live in a global community and it's a global economy. So if you think about the Valencia floods in Spain, 225 people died. Lots of homes were destroyed. Huge insurance costs. 800 kilometers of roads were affected, and 550 kilometers of rail tracks and 380 bridges and pontoons. That's a lot of infrastructure damage in one region of a European country. And so people here in the UK could say, for instance, well, why does that affect me? I don't need to worry about that. Well, you do need to worry about it because we import 25% of our citrus fruits and salads come from that particular region of Spain. So whenever anything goes in short supply, what's the result? It results in higher food prices, both in the supermarket and in the restaurants. So it does affect us, most definitely affects us. And moreover, insurance companies don't like making losses. So they'll increase their insurance premiums, and they are looking at what risks their clients are posing to them and set their insurance premiums accordingly, or decline to insure them in some cases. So it does have an effect. It affects us all, without a doubt. And we've all seen these pictures of wildfires across the world. We've seen a lot in America, which is quite shocking, really. But even here in the UK, which is always regarded as being a wet country, we've had 35,000 hectares burnt this year at a direct cost of £350 million, but a total economic and social cost estimated to be 12 billion. That's a big impact. In America, you're talking about a cost annually of between just under 400 billion and 900 billion a year. That's a huge, huge economic cost, let alone all the damage it does to people's lives, which is even more important. And you can see it's sort of happening all over the world. It's not just in Europe, not just in America. It's absolutely everywhere. And closer to home, this is where I live. This is a place called Worcester. That's a 1,000-year-old cathedral sitting on the banks of the River Severn. And it's floods now and again, up until a couple of years ago. And that cricket ground gets flooded, or got flooded, 9 times between the end of the season in September and the beginning of the following season in April. And every time it gets flooded, it costs them between £35,000 and £40,000 to clear up. Now, for a small club, which Worcester County Cricket Club is, that's unsustainable. They are now seriously considering relocating the ground. Now, you might think, well, so what? Well, locally, that's a big thing because that's a very historical ground. It's been there since 1865. It's picturesque. It's known throughout the cricket world. It's a big emotional wrench. It's a cultural thing. And it's really sad to see that happening. But these are the real impacts. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. These are the real impacts that it's having. So what are the risks to your own organization? Well, that's going to really depend on the number of variables. Your size and complexity, location of operating sites, your core business activities, the location of your key suppliers, and what markets you're operating in, and what's your climate pathway. By climate pathway, what I mean is, what are you anticipating that global temperature rise is going to be, and over what time frame? So is it 1.5 over the next 10 years? Is it 2 degrees over the next 20? Because that all has an impact on the potential risks to your business moving forward. What happens if you choose to ignore the risks? Well, it may become uninsurable. As I said, insurance companies are paying a lot more attention to these things now than they were. And you will lose customers. Key suppliers may no longer be able to supply you. Key products and services will become more expensive or unobtainable in some cases. And operational sites may become unviable. You'll have redundant assets, which is not something any investor wants to hear. And investors may not continue supporting your business. So the ramifications are significant. What we've done today is everything on the left. So we've concentrated on mitigating the impacts of our own organizations on the environment. So minimizing pollution, minimizing emissions, etc. But whilst we can't lose sight of that, and we need to continue operating in that way and being responsible, we now have to start thinking very seriously about the environmental impact on our businesses. So we've already last year momentarily passed the 1.5 degree pre-industrial temperature rise. That's looking likely to increase. Even if we stopped emitting today, every country in the world went net zero overnight, temperatures will still carry on rising because the greenhouse gases are already in the atmosphere. So it's a fact, and here's some real world examples. You can see, pick out any one of those that you like. You talk about climate disruption to global supply chains could lead to $25 trillion net losses by mid-century. I mean, that's the number I couldn't even write down. It's crazy, but it's impacting everyone and everywhere. So what can you do about it? Well, what you can do is to identify what we call the value at risk to your own organization. So that's taking all those things into account, all those variables, and coming up with a number, because unless you come up with a number, it's all gobbledygook. No one's going to listen to you. So you have to understand what those variables are, what the value at risk is, and then go to your CFO and talk to them about it. But it's not all bad news. The good news is you're giving them a head up. The good news is that you're telling them early doors that now we can adapt our strategy, look forward, relocate sites, whatever it is we have to do to help mitigate those risks. But at least you're telling him about it and he knows about it. He might not welcome it, but you need to know. Why is mitigation important? Well, we've already talked about lots of this already. But also, your reporting requirements alone requires you to look at and mitigate your risks. And it's absolutely critical to your organization's strategy and future sustainability. It reduces the risk profile of your organization to insurers and potentially lowers premiums, or at least doesn't increase them. Increases your value to investors because you're less of a risk to them. And it will give you a competitive edge, certainly over those competitors that aren't doing anything about it and don't even recognize it as an issue, because it will bite them hard in the future. So what do? You've now identified the risk, you've identified the value at risk. What can you then do about it? Well, like with anything else, you plan. So you have a risk mitigation plan. So you've identified your risks. Now you need to know how you're going to mitigate them. And these plans and the risks and the mitigating factors will vary from organization to organization, even within the same sector, because you'll have different operating sites, you'll have different suppliers, etc., etc. So what you would do is then prioritize the identified risks in terms of materiality and immediacy. In other words, how big are they? How quickly are they likely to happen? And then understand how you can mitigate each of those risks in turn, and estimate the cost of implementation of those risks mitigation measures, and agree the appropriate timelines for each measure. Assign roles, responsibilities, review the value at risk annually, because it will change. It's a moving feast. And review progress, as you should with all plans, and adapt the plan accordingly. I'll give you a couple of examples of risk and mitigation. If you think about the food industry, some of those crops that are at risk are maize, cocoa, wheat, and rice. I think there's 7 altogether that are identified as being at very real risk. They're all vulnerable to impacts of climate change, erratic rainfall, hot winds, which I didn't know was a thing, but yes, hot winds do impact them, drought, and sea level rises. If you think about sea level rises in the southeast of Asia, which is the rice bowl of the world, it's not going to take an awful lot for that to become salinated, and rice will no longer be able to be grown there. That will cause huge migration issues. And then you've got so what can you do about it? The mitigation actions might include waste minimization of crop source, transportation and production. For those of you who know, food waste is a huge issue. 40% of it is wasted at source, and 40% is wasted by us, the end consumer. In other words, it goes in the bin, which is shocking. So there's an awful lot of food waste. Development of more hardy crops through collaboration. Source new supplies from less vulnerable regions, probably a temporary measure. Develop new food products, less dependent upon vulnerable ingredients or unsustainable sources of supply. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's about recognizing what's happening and doing something about it. And similarly, with a print company who's reliant on paper products, future timber scarcity due to climate change will result in increased costs. Mitigation actions might include the development of new products using alternative sustainable materials, increased use of recycled materials, waste minimization, of course, always, and digitalization of some products. So whilst there is an issue, it's important to recognize it. It's important to recognize the extent of it and the potential cost of it to your organization, but then absolutely important to then understand how you can mitigate those individual risks over what period of time. So in summary, because my throat is getting dry now, key takeaways: data is absolutely critical for visibility, understanding, validation, and reporting. Use smart targets at site and organization level, make them relevant and achievable. Set the foundation, so ensure proper, appropriate policies and procedures are in place that support good practice. And people are your most powerful asset and know your organization better than any consultant, so use their knowledge and support them in what they're trying to do. Small changes can make a huge difference. So the cumulative impact of small things will make a massive difference. Consider technical projects only once you've done all you can to minimize energy wastage. And apply due diligence to both proposed technical solution and the preferred supplier. And remember, you don't have to use your own capital when it comes to projects. And minimize future costs by identifying your value at risk and creating an appropriate risk mitigation plan. You don't have to do it all on your own. There is help out there. Thank you. I hope that's been a useful session, and I think we're going to be taking a few questions.
Wonderful, George. Thank you so much for such an informative session. I would love to request all the participants drop your questions in the chat box right away. We still have a time, 10 to 15 minutes to cover the Q&A. So feel free to drop all the questions in the chat box. So meanwhile, I have question which we have got across live platform. So yes, George, I'll be reading questions for you so you can answer it accordingly. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, great. Thank you. So there's question asked by Ruchi. Could you share a success story where a simple behavior change cut significant emissions?
Well, wherever you're reducing energy consumption, you're reducing emissions naturally. I gave a number of examples there. I think there was about 15 or 20 on that one slide. But one we did years ago was at Rolls-Royce. That reduced energy consumption. At that time, we weren't measuring carbon, believe it or not, but that reduced energy consumption in the second full year of that program by something like 11.5%. Which is significant. I'd have to go back and look at what that meant in terms of carbon. In terms of a more recent one at a council in South Wales, again, we reduced their energy usage by just over 20%. And I'd have to check the carbon reductions. But if you're reducing energy, obviously you're reducing carbon in any case.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering this one. Moving forward to the next question that we have got from Victor. For companies early in their net zero journey, what metrics should they track before anything else?
Interesting. Well, for me, I would say worry about scope one, scope two first. Okay. And the reason why I'd say that is because that's more visible, it's more within your influence and control. So concentrate on reducing your own emissions from your own operations, from your own sites, um, before worrying about your scope three. What you could do at the same time, as well as obviously managing your scope one, scope two emissions, is to at least do your full carbon footprint, so you understand what your scope three emissions are and who your biggest emitters are, which are generally going to be tier one suppliers, because there's nothing stopping you in approaching those biggest emitters within your supply chain and asking them for their carbon data. Most these days will be able to give you that. And those that can't give you immediately will certainly, hopefully, be able to give it to you once you've asked them. So that will at least give you an understanding of where you're at from a carbon perspective. But I would say focus on scope one, scope two at the beginning of your journey, and then come to scope three once you've got scope one, scope two under better control.
Wonderfully answered. Thank you so much, George. We will be taking more 2 to 3 questions that I can see over the live across the live. Meanwhile, I request again all the participants. We still have a 10 minutes. Drop all the questions in the chat box. So yes, this another question that we have got from Ruhi, could what role should suppliers and partners play in a company's carbon reduction strategy, and how do you hold them accountable for it?
Sorry, suppliers was that?
Yes, yes.
No,
What role
suppliers.
should suppliers and partners play in companies' carbon reduction in a strategy, and how do you hold them accountable?
Well, first of all, it's about asking the question, so getting their carbon data, and then it's about engaging your biggest emitters within your supply chain. So if you're working in an organization that has 5,000 suppliers, you're not possibly going to be able to engage 5,000 suppliers. So it's applying the old rule of 20% of your supply chain generally will account for 80% of your scope three emissions. So focus on that 20%. Ask them in the first instance, what their carbon reduction plans are and how they're doing, and get that information back in, because initially what most organizations do when they calculate their scope 3 emissions is they use an expenditure based analysis, which isn't that accurate, but it gives you an idea of the size of your scope 3 emissions. By getting data directly from your suppliers will give you better data and will initially hopefully reduce your emissions, purely because the data is better, it's more accurate. But those suppliers that are unwilling to come to the table, if you like, you ultimately have the sanction of not using them anymore, and they will know that. Now, if they are the only supplier of a particular key product or ingredient that you need for your own core business, that's a difficult conversation. But if there are multiple alternatives, then you can always go to another supplier. That's the ultimate sanction. But we would always encourage you to engage and try to work with your key suppliers in the first instance, and most will hopefully be willing to come to the table.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, George. There's another question from Michael. What is the most profitable venture you have seen with sustainability?
Oh, the most profitable. Okay, that's interesting. I could tell you one that should have happened and didn't happen, which was a project. It was a technical project, and that was a site where there was a biomass CHP plant next door, and they could have had decarbonized electricity and decarbonized heat at a much lower price without spending any money. And because they were so risk averse, they chose not to do it. So I've been in therapy ever since that didn't happen, because I still can't believe it didn't happen. It was crazy, but there you go. But I would say from a sustainability perspective, yeah, we've helped numerous organizations not only get a better handle a better understanding of what their impacts are, but also to help them to implement their net zero plans. So our approach is to create a high-level strategy that says, right, in the UK, we have to get to net zero by 2050. So your high-level strategy is to set a target to get to net zero by 2050. Maybe something a little bit more ambitious in some cases, but the technology in the wherefore doesn't yet exist for anyone to get to net zero truly without offsetting. So what we then do is create a shorter term action plan, which enables you to deal with the very real possibility of making reductions around scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So we'll say in year 1, do X, in year 2, Y, etc., and that will keep you on track because we'll use the science-based target trajectory initiative trajectory to set that course to say, okay, in 5 years, you need to be at this point. And here's the things you can do in year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to keep you on that trajectory, and then review that plan, and then set your next 5-year plan as new technologies emerge, as cost of carbon increases, as energy prices change, etc., etc.
Great. Thank you so much, Josh. Moving forward to the next question. Nerissa is asking, what's the possible risk and mitigation can a small 50 to 100 staff learning and development training and research company based in Asia have?
In terms of climate change, the impacts of climate change, could you repeat the question?
Sure. What's the possible risk and mitigation can a small 50 to 100 staff learning and development training and research company based in Asia have?
Well, the risks to you are probably more the risks to your clients, aren't they? I would say. I'm not sure of the question, if I'm perfectly honest with you, because if you're only a small company, the risks from climate change are obviously also relatively small. If you're a company that's office based and you're leasing, and let's say there's an immediate threat in the next 5 years of severe flooding in that locality, then you have a decision to make to relocate, don't you? If it's so, the physical risk is easy to understand. If it's risks to your clients, that's really for your clients to understand. How you interact with that, I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Josh, for answering this one. Moving forward to the another question that we have got from Tushar. How does your firm help reduce the energy consumption? Is it through data analytics or conventional energy auditing?
It's everything. It's through obviously getting the right level of data, interpreting that data, analyzing it, and reporting against it in a useful way that will then inform actions going forward. But we also do on-site energy audits. So we do physical audits of sites, and we also look at processes and procedures and policies that are in place and make recommendations and can provide templates to help people to put those things in place where they're absent. But it's the whole holistic approach to managing energy, or indeed carbon. It's taking that helicopter view and seeing how everything knits together, because one weak link can lead to the downfall of everything. So it's having that holistic approach, making sure that responsibility for good energy management on a site is across the board. So everyone has a responsibility for it. It cannot lie with one person or one department. That's not how it works.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Josh, for answering all the questions. We'll be taking this one question as the last question for today. And
Okay.
I would love to request all the participants, if you have any further questions for Josh, feel free to reach out to him. I'll be sharing his LinkedIn profile link in the chat box. So, yes, before I move forward to the next question, I would love to make this announcement that we do have some great offer and discount regarding this certification. So, stay connected till the end. I'll be announcing it post this. So yes, taking this last question that we have got from Amrita. So the question is, when the budgets are tight, how do you prioritize between energy efficiency upgrades versus renewable energy investments?
When money's tight, well, there are a number of options, aren't there? It's all if it comes down to return on investment, then that's a simple calculation, isn't it? If it's behavior change will give you a very, very good return on investment with very little outlay. It's normally comes out of your operating budget rather than your capex budget. So that shouldn't present you with any problems as to making those people changes. That's the first place I'd go to, is do the no cost, low cost things first. And then when it comes to the capital, finding capital for renewables, there are a number of delivery mechanisms we discussed earlier, like power purchase agreements, asset finance, etc., EPCs, energy performance contracts, where you can buy energy as a per unit of energy, and you don't have to worry about the technology or investing in that technology. You're just paying a guaranteed price for a unit of energy. So there's lots of different ways that these things can be approached when capital isn't available. There are people that are willing to invest in these things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Josh. Here we are stopping with the Q&A. And before I move forward, would love to request you to share your final thoughts with all our participants today.
Yeah, I would say, as you've heard me say several times today, data is absolutely key. You don't need to create data lakes. You just need to understand what's going on. It's absolutely important. Use smart targets at all levels. Don't impose group targets on sites without understanding what's going on the site. Make sure the foundations are in place, so appropriate policies and procedures that support good practice. I gave you a couple of examples: motor replacement policy, compressed air management, things like that. And people are your most powerful asset. Don't forget that. They know your organization better than anyone else. And if you support them and you provide them with knowledge and training, they'll make a big difference, because their small changes makes a huge difference. And consider technical projects only once you've done all you can to minimize your energy consumption, and apply due diligence to both the proposed technical solution and the preferred supplier. The last thing you want is to be attached to a project that goes wrong because you didn't do your due diligence. So do that due diligence. If you're not capable of doing that, we don't have the time, companies like ours can do that for you. And remember, as we just discussed, you don't have to use your own capital. There are alternatives out there. And don't forget about what's on the horizon. I'm not trying to scare people. We've all seen the impacts of climate change, the extreme weather events, whether it's flooding, storms, fires, whatever it might be. It's increasing. It's not going to get any better. Look at it seriously, identify the risks, develop a risk mitigation plan, and if you're in doubt, there is help out there, including JLP solutions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, George, for sharing such a beautiful thoughts with all the participants. And thank you very much again for amazing session we had today. And thank you, participants, for asking amazing question and keeping this session interactive. So yes, George, we'll be definitely reaching out to you for future sessions with GSDC again. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, moving forward, as I mentioned that we do have some great announcement for all of you. So this is regarding today's feature certification that we had session on. So you can opt out for this certification, Certified Sustainability Professional and Certified Sustainability Coach. You can opt out for this certification where you can use this promo code, which is SUST20, to get an amazing discount, which is 20% off on this certification. So do grab this opportunity. You'll find the offer details in the chat box along with the link and the promo code. And also, this is regarding the utility tool. The GSDC has introduced this tool earlier. How this tool will help you? It will help you to improve your LinkedIn profile score, your AI skill score. Also, it will help you to build your personal brand, and also it will help you to generate AI generated resumes. So use this code August AUG 100 to get an amazing discount, which is 100% off. You can use this and check this tool out for it is amazing tool. You can just find the link in the chat box. If you scroll up a little bit, you'll find the link. Also, I'll share it again after this announcement. And I'm very happy to make this announcement. Tomorrow we'll be having another session of this webinar series. And for that, we do have this incredible speaker, Aliza Ayaz, and she'll be taking us through the topic that is enhancing supply chain sustainability and resilience. So do join us on 29 October 2025 with the time slot that is 9:30 a.m. Central, 10:30 p.m. Singapore time. And also, we are running this AI challenge. This session will start exact after 45 minutes. So do join us as we have incredible panel of AI experts who are giving us a live demo session with practical walkthrough on each AI tool that is available in the market. So do join us. These sessions are so amazing. Earlier, we scheduled this for 28 days, and guess what? We got amazing responses from all the participants, and on demand, we have extended this till 100 days now. So this will be happening till 100 days. So do join us for all the sessions. And also, we are running this another webinar series on supply chain disruption with generative AI, which is scheduled from 27 to 31st October 2025, with the time slot that is happening on the another time slot before this session, which is 8:30 p.m. Singapore time, 6 p.m. IST Indian Standard Time, and 7:30 a.m. Central Time. So do join us. This is also going to be a very important for all of you. And we do have these three winners. These people have referred maximum people to our session. So let's congratulate to them. However, we'll be announcing all the winners at this end of the webinar series, which on Friday. So you still have time to refer maximum people and two winner for our session. And that winner will be getting, of course, that winner will be getting rewards which is worth $400. So of course, referring people to knowledgeable and powerful sessions like this, you will be becoming a thoughtful leader, right? So do refer maximum people to our sessions. And also, in case if you want to be a speaker for our upcoming event as a future global speaker, as you all know that we do have global platform like learning capsule webinars and the podcast. So feel free to reach out to us if you want to be speaker for our upcoming sessions. And of course, we would love to connect. You can scan this QR to connect with us over the social media, over the LinkedIn. You can check our website www.gsdcouncil.org to get more information, more details, and to check all the offerings that GSDC has for all of you. And do connect with us over the WhatsApp group to get daily update on event, webinar, boot camps that we offer, guys. And please do share your valuable feedbacks on Trustpilot link. You'll find the link in the chat box. And thank you everyone for joining today's session. I hope to see you all for the upcoming sessions as well. Until then, keep learning and take care of yourself. Thank you very much, Josh. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.